goodness, this has been a heck of a week. When you think about Major League Baseball moving its All-Star game from Atlanta, Georgia, as opposition to these new voter laws that they have there, you have former President Donald Trump talking about boycotting these corporations that for the first time in a long time are being good corporate community partners, supporting those who and everyone that at the ballot box, that everybody should have this access to voting in this country. Then you have Mitch McConnell, who was a big proponent of Citizens United and a big proponent of corporations getting involved in politics by donating ungodly amounts of money to campaigns. And now he's telling them to stay out of politics, but don't stop, giving us money. I guess they think we're all crazy, but we're not. And we see what is unfolding. Joining us on the live line, one of my favorite attorneys, Attorney Richard Bell. He's a New York City civil rights and liability trial attorney and author of Voting, the Ultimate Act of Resistance. And I'll give you his website and all that information a little later. Hi, Attorney Bell. How are you today? Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I'm so well, Perri, and thank you for so much for having me back. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. So let me ask you this. Why do you think, and just be as open and honest as you can possibly be, why do you think that that there are so many legislatures, state legislatures, that are trying to change different laws or to make it more difficult to vote? What happened, in your opinion? I know what happened, but what do you think happened?
Oh, it's real simple. It's a backlash to black and brown voters turning the presidential election and the runoff Senate elections. Mm-hmm. And the Republicans know that they can't win straight up when everybody's allowed to vote. So the best they can do, in their opinion, is to depress the black and brown vote, and then they'll have a shot at winning. And some of their own people have actually said it out loud, so we really don't have to even guess.
So you don't even have to guess. So there have been, of course, there's been a lot of pushback, and as we know, there are at least 3 legal challenges to Georgia's newly enacted law changing state election procedures. So what do these legal challenges look like? I mean, can they change the law, or is this something that's going to have to go all the way to the Supreme Court?
Okay, so number one, Perri, so we got the 3 challenges, the ACLU suit, the NAACP suit, the Georgia Project suit. Basically, bottom line, to answer to your question, the simple answer is going through the courts is the best way to try to do it.
Okay.
Am I particularly optimistic? No, for 2 reasons. Number one, the federal courts are full of Trump appointees because of Mitch McConnell in the last 4 years. So they're not the most receptive. And we know the Supreme Court is the one in 2013, the Roberts Court is the one that struck down Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act.
Shelby versus Holder.
Yes, Shelby. Holder, exactly, which required pre-clearance, meaning certain southern states would have to go to the Justice Department before they could enact voting rights laws. And what happened immediately after they struck it down? That's when you saw all the voter ID, the poll closings, the poll purges, the decrease in early voting. That's when all of that happened almost immediately thereafter. So I think it's a big uphill battle. Terrific lawyers that are bringing these cases.
Okay.
And on the merits, I like the cases. But on the merits and what the judges do may be 2 different things.
All right. So this is what the irony that I find. So you think that there are people out there, and Donald Trump, who doesn't, I haven't seen anybody as of yet talking about voter ID. But you want to give voter IDs. You want voter ID laws, but you don't want a COVID passport. Whenever they talk about their civil rights and the civil rights of Americans, they're only talking for one populace in the United States. They're not talking about black and brown people.
Oh, no. It's the civil rights of the Republican voting base.
Yeah.
That's what they're talking about.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that's certainly not black and brown people. And the biggest problem I see, Perri, if we kind of just focus for a moment on the Georgia restrictions.
Okay.
Because there's a couple of them that haven't gotten a lot of publicity that are really oppressive. One of the things they did was they took away these mobile RV voting centers. And in Fulton County, Metro Atlanta, they had 2 RVs that went around. And do you know that the number of people that voted that way was almost equal to the entire state differential for Biden winning? So I don't think that was a coincidental one when they were thinking of taking that away from voters.
So they said no more mobile voting. Is that
no more? Because there's over 11,000 people that voted that way in Atlanta, and we know which way they voted. So let's get rid of that one. So that didn't get much publicity. And one of the others that didn't get a lot was if you go to the wrong polling place, which a lot of people do, especially in black and brown neighborhoods where they've closed so many polls.
They close them and move them and everything else.
Exactly. So if you go there before 5 p.m. on Election Day, the new law says, you know what, you cannot fill out one of those paper provisional ballots that we'll check later to make sure of your address. No, we're not accepting that. You have to go to the new polling place. Now, people work. People have child care things to do. So they're now making it really restrictive for you. That's another really bad one that hasn't gotten publicity. And the last one, which I don't think is going to be something the courts are going to do something about, was the legislature, the Republican legislature,
right,
now appoints the chairperson of the state election board.
Mm-hmm.
They got rid of the Secretary of State as a voting member. And they now, unbelievable, because he actually did the right thing. I'm not a big fan normally, but they literally took away his right to vote in the board, which he used to be the head of.
Right.
And do you know that the Republican legislature under this new law can suspend county election officials and take over their election duties if they find malfeasance, whatever that may mean. So you can just see a scenario where they come into Fulton County and say, you know what, you're doing things wrong here. We're taking this over. That is dangerous. That is real, real dangerous.
You know, it's just, it's laughable, it's ludicrous, it's sad, but guess what? They're going to be able to, in some cases, get away with this.
Yes, and things like that legislative thing, most of the times the courts defer to legislatures because in order to show either disparate impact on racial groups or intentional racism, it's a high standard to begin with. And like I said, we don't have the most receptive judges in the federal courts after the last 4 years. So that's a big problem. I know when I go to court, I always look to see who the judge is because it gives me a little idea of where my trial might be going.
So Stacey Abrams' sister is in the federal courts in Georgia, right?
I'm sorry?
Stacey Abrams' sister is a federal court judge, and she's the reason why I believe, can't remember what it was, but she struck down something in Georgia. I can't.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that, so I don't want to comment.
Right, next time, later on when you have some time, look that up. But the reason why I was thinking of Stacey Abrams is because before they even were talking about, changing the laws, there was a Stop Stacey movement. And this is just a result of the Stop Stacey. Do you think that they really were these grown white men are really fearful of Stacey Abrams in Georgia right now?
These cowards, and they are cowards because they don't want to play by the rules, they should have named the act the Stop Stacey Abrams from Becoming Governor in 2022 Act. because that's their immediate concern in Georgia. That and Reverend Warren.